Right, back to your calls. We're talking about the different uptakes of the vaccine in different ethnic groupings. Andrew is in Hammersmith. Now, Andrew, you have a unique perspective on this.
I do. I very much see this from two sides. I've had the vaccine. I've had 2 doses of Pfizer back in January and recently in April. But I also have a great deal of mistrust in the health system and the pharmaceutical companies. And this goes back to the fact that I'm a haemophiliac. And in the 1970s and 80s, I was treated with contaminated blood products. And I received HIV and was infected with HIV and hepatitis C as a result. So I'm naturally very sceptical of what can happen with pharmaceutical products in general. I don't think it's obviously, these were not vaccines. I totally accept that, but I do think that taking medicinal products as a broad group, I understand the mistrust. I don't.
But you've got over it, though. You've got over that mistrust to have the vaccine. That's what I'm interested in.
Yes, I have. Yes. I'm also, because of the things I have wrong and some additional things, with my health, I was designated clinically extremely vulnerable. So I had to factor that in. But I also had to think, well, I'm taking a new medicine here. It's this new vaccine, and I was thinking, I don't know what it's going to do. But I basically had to take the plunge. I made that decision, and I know we can see that the vaccine's working now, but my initial decision had to be made in January.
Yeah.
So I really do feel I see this from both sides. However, I would say that I don't condone anyone who's putting out actual vaccine skeptic material or any of these websites. I really don't. I don't believe in that. I don't want to read that. I won't go looking for it. But from where I'm coming from what I know for sure, and there's an inquiry going on right now into infected blood.
Yeah.
What they're looking at from the practices of pharmaceutical companies in the 70s and 80s. We know that there was some, they took blood from what they called Skid Row donors and various other places, and there's some huge questions that have never really been answered. Well, you're right.
Well, you're right. It's a really important subject. I don't need to tell you that, but I was listening to a podcast the other day, an interview with Richard Sefton on a podcast called State of Mind, and he was interviewing a guy called Mark Anthony Ward, who's in exactly the same situation as you. He was infected, I think, at the age of 12 in the early 1980s, in exactly the same way that you were. It's a 2-hour conversation, and it's one of the most moving things I think I've ever heard. I mean, I was literally driving around the M25 with tears running down my face, and I'd really recommend everybody listens to that, because I was slightly ashamed in that I'd heard of the infected blood scandal. I knew the basics of it, but I didn't really know the detail. And anyway, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's on Twitter under, I think he calls himself Hemosexual on Twitter, but he's really incredibly moving. So I don't know if that might be a bit painful for you to listen to. Andrew.
Yes, I do know of him, but I've not seen the actual podcast. I will look at it.
Have a look.
I'll watch it.
State of Mind with Richard Sefton. Have a listen. Andrew, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Right, we'll come to more of your calls in a second. It's 8:47.